Jason Scott is a tearaway teen in the small town of Angel Grove. At detention, he makes a new friend, the nerdy Billy Cranston, and together they journey to the local disused mine, where, with a ragtag bunch of other teenagers, they discover strange glowing rocks, which leads them down into the depths of the mine to a disused spaceship, a robot, a face in the wall, and eventually to becoming Power Rangers, a set of essentially superpowered beings covered in armour whose job it is to protect life on Earth. It's good timing from them because Rita Repulsa wakes up in the ocean and sets about gathering gold to create a monstrous henchman, Goldar, to destroy the town. One thing I liked about this Power Rangers movie is that they slow down the plot as much as possible to really take some time in building the characters and their chemistry with each other. A common problem with blockbusters is that their characters can feel sometimes distant or even cold, because we don't get to know them enough before the plot has to kick in. Unfortunately, although I feel like it's the right sentiment to slow stuff down and try and do some character building, one of the problems with Power Rangers is that the characters are relatively generic. Jason Scott is this angsty kid who actually seems to have everything fine, but is just angry for no reason. He's a white, middle-class, physically fit American man. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff going for him, and he's also really nice. It's unclear as to why he does so many bad things. I was almost waiting for something to be revealed about him having like a bad relationship with his dad or something, but it never really comes out. It's not like anyone died in his family or anything like that. There are no simple reasons why. He's just angsty because the movie wants him to be. Kimberly's the posh girl who did a bad thing, Zach's the delinquent who secretly loves his mum, Trina is the new girl, and Billy is the nerd. All the characters are portrayed by their actors as well as they can be, and their chemistry is good, but fundamentally they aren't interesting characters. So once you've spent a couple of scenes with them, you kind of feel like you get to know them. But at least they take that time to let you know that. At least you get to engage with the characters, even if, in this case, they actually aren't very interesting. And there are two things to note about these characters as well. The press around the film has made a pretty big deal about the fact that it has an autistic and a gay character in it. The autism in the film is handled really well. It's Billy, and he just mentions being on a spectrum, and his character is sort of consistent with that. They don't really do anything with that, and it sort of fades away as the movie goes on, but that's a proper representation. As far as the gay angle on Trina, the Yellow Ranger, I was not as convinced. One thing that really threw me about the movie was that it was very, very euphemistic. The way that the scene plays out, where we discover that she's a lesbian, or that it implies that she's a lesbian, she's complaining about her parents, and she says, like, they don't let me love the people that I love. And Zach says, oh, boyfriend troubles? And it kind of pushes in on Trina, and she goes, yeah, boyfriend troubles. And then it really dollies in on Zach, and he's like, girlfriend troubles? And then Trina just doesn't say anything and moves on. I like the fact that they're starting to put LGBT representation in kids and family movies. That's a good thing. But in a case like that, I can't help but feel that they're trying to have it two ways. The people who are in charge of the money behind the film are uncomfortable with having openly gay characters being gay in the film, but they do want to attract the valuable demographic of the gay audience. So they go, okay, yeah, she's gay, and try and do as little with that as possible. For me, that's kind of the worst form of tokenism, because it's basically erasing the possibility of putting more developed LGBT characters in these films. The plot is really, really dumb, as you might expect from a Power Rangers film, and that's not something that surprised me going into the movie. The main difference is that they turn morphing, like putting on the suits, into like essentially a superpower that has to be worked at and kind of earned. And as a result, they have a super long middle to the film where the characters are all getting to know each other. It's all that character building, it's all that chemistry, character building stuff that I talked about earlier. The problem with that is that the climax is really, really short, so you only get like 20 minutes of actual Power Ranger action right at the end of the film. In that sense, it almost has a structure like one of the TV shows, but without the middle bit where all those clay dudes show up on the street and then they have a little fight and then they go back to the cave. The other problem is that by having that middle part focus entirely on the Rangers, we get very little Rita action in the film. Zordon pretty much says she's just evil, like she just turned evil. So she's kind of a pantomime villain, and we don't really get a clear understanding about why she's doing what she's doing. Goldar, the giant monster, is even worse. He doesn't have any dialogue, he's just like an animal. He just shows up right at the end of the film, and it's very clearly an advert for the toy figures that are going to be associated with that movie, as evidenced by the fact that the film that I saw was preceded by a trailer for those action figures with the massive Goldar figure. So in the end, you get to the climax of the movie, and the emotional climax has basically already happened because they've made friends with each other and kind of like done some tests together. So we already have had the emotional payoff of the movie, so we just get a really long, hollow fight with a lot of CGI. and that ultimately turned me off quite a lot. At least when it's two dudes in suits fighting each other, you can kind of get a bit of a thrill out of the hokiness, kitschiness of it all. This was very much middle-of-the-range CGI sequences for the last 20 minutes. I think it's basically competently made. I think it's well enough made, and it will probably please fans of the film. But I don't think it's really possible to argue in any way that it actually improves on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It has the same structure as one of the episodes. Everything that they change, they then nod back to, so you get that really annoying thing that you get in remakes and reboots where someone will say a line that was in the original film, but totally out of context, and then the audience goes, "Ah, I recognise that." They do go out of their way to give a little bit more motivation for all of the characters, but then they fail to do that for the villain, which is quite an important thing in a big action movie. So, you know, that's not any better particularly than the original series was. And plot-wise, they try to address some stuff that fans have talked about, like you see Zordon alive and like on his feet 65 million years before at the start of the film. You find out that Rita used to be a Green Ranger, and that's really fun for people who care about that, but the film doesn't succeed in telling you as an audience member why you should care about it if you don't care about it already. Last but not least, it has a really obvious glaring piece of product placement, which is from Krispy Kreme. Two of the characters hang out there at one point during a montage, and I thought, okay, not artful, but fair enough. And then it turns out that the MacGuffin that runs the whole film is hidden underneath the local Krispy Kreme. So there's about 10 minutes of the climax where everyone's walking around going, "Where's the Krispy Kreme? I need to find the Krispy Kreme. What is this Krispy Kreme place of which you speak?" But apart from making me hungry for badly made, over-sugary donuts, it didn't really do anything for me. So, in conclusion, it's a basically competent new Power Rangers movie which hits all of the benchmarks you'd hope to expect of a modern adaptation of a 90s kids TV series, which is to say, not many. It's a solidly beige film, it's 2.5 out of 5, it wasn't so offensive that I felt sad that I'd paid money for it, but at the same time it wasn't exactly memorable, and I think the family audiences that it's aimed at won't take much from it. So if you enjoyed Power Rangers, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it, although I've got to tell you that I kind of prefer Ivan Ooze to Rita Repulsa, so thanks for watching, hope you had a good one. I'll see you later.